You are now viewing a cool operation broadcast. You are now viewing a cool operation
We're
broadcast.
now viewing a cool operation broadcast.
I would also recommend that there's a couple not tricks, but I think traps that modern media has afforded us. There's actually too many to count, but like for example, podcasts. Like I've wanted to do a podcast for a minute now. But now that I'm actually doing it, or starting to attempt it, I don't know if I'm doing it yet. I sit here and I ask myself, like, what am I actually doing? You know? I think the two traps that I'm referring to are as someone participating in a podcast. I think you can get tricked into thinking everything you say holds like weight or value. Homie Ethan Klein fell down that rabbit hole.
He fell deep into that rabbit hole.
And it's disappointing. So I have to remind myself that just because I have a relatively small handful of people that would ever ask me for advice or my input on anything, I can't let myself think that. And no offense to any of those people, because some of them may be listening, but I can't let myself think that that means anything. Because it doesn't. It really doesn't. You could come up with any ideal, any worldview. You could adopt it as your own. You could advertise it. You could do a podcast about it. And you'll find someone who agrees. No matter how twisted what you're saying is. That's fucked too, because if someone's saying something legitimately twisted and they get people to start agreeing with them, they start to think that they're doing good. They're doing good by spreading that message, because look, people agree with me. And that's a nice feeling, to be accepted and agreed with and loved, and it gives my heart a little warm feeling every time someone asks, hey, truly, I had a question. What would you do in this situation? What would you do about this? And I get two feelings every time. I get like excited and almost like I can't think of the term, but honored, I guess, like humbled and honored. But then immediately after that, every time it's like a wave of confusion. Like, I'm so honored, but why me? So I think anyone can fall into that trap of thinking that their opinion really means anything or is valuable in any way. Everyone has a podcast now.
You can give advice, but you can never tell someone that they have to do exactly what you say. It's not a Simon Says game.
Right, it is not Simon Says, you're right. You can give advice, and that is as far as it goes. And arguably no advice that you could ever give would ever be worth anything.
Right.
Worth anything. And 99% of the time, probably 99.999% of the time, whatever advice or opinion you have is not even originally yours.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's that. But the flip side of this whole coin is the other trick, or trap, whatever you want to fucking call it, is as a listener of podcasts, which I also am, there's actually there's two tricks to this. One is you can start to think that the podcasts you're listening to are the right ones.
All right.
You've got that access to that secret info. So that can, aside from just making you a fucking arrogant asshole and a fucking Redditor, it can make you way too sure of yourself. Way too sure of yourself. And I think doubt and anxiety and depression and all those things that so many people complain about. I mean, listen, I'm in that boat too, but and have been for as long as I can remember. But after being in that boat for so long, I think one of two things happens. You either fall off the fucking boat and you give up, or you realize that very boat that has made you so miserable is the same boat that is keeping you alive. Stress and anxiety and all that, that is an irreplaceable part of life. You need that to grow. If you were never stressed, you would...
everything would be perfect.
Right. You know, diamonds are made through pressure. Gold is refined in a fire. These are common themes in...
To shape a sword, you gotta beat the shit out of it.
Yeah, exactly. To shape a sword, you have to beat the shit out of it. So, you have to trim it down. You have to... Anyway, there's a lot of work that goes into that. So, this is a rant, but I guess all I'm saying is if you're listening to a podcast, just make sure that you are vetting all the info from that podcast with as much logic as you can before you're saying, oh yeah, this is what I believe in. This is the worldview I want to adopt, and this is what I'm going to advertise to others as how I'm living my life. You better make sure what you're letting in your head is worth it. It's out of the abundance of a man's heart, his mouth speaks, I think is how that verse goes. So whatever you're letting into your heart is going to affect you, and probably 80-90% of people giving you advice or giving a podcast or giving a TED Talk, but most of them do not have your best interests at heart. And that's just a fact. That's not an irrefutable fact at all. Right. That's called human nature, and if you think I'm over-exaggerating, I'll talk to you in a few years and we'll see what's up. But anyway, just be careful what you put in your head, because just because you like Mr. Joe Schmo with podcast number 79 doesn't mean Mr. Joe Schmo is really saying anything.
Right.
And if he is, it's probably so he can make a buck, not so you can feel better about yourself or anything like that. So I love it. I've always had a lot of thoughts in my head bouncing around since I was young, and I think this type of thing is probably, like what we're doing here, is probably a long time coming. And I'm glad to do it, and I'll continue to do it. But I'm also using this outlet for the stupid rants in my head to also fact check myself and temper myself, because when I'm sitting here in front of a mic that is recording, it puts a lot more emphasis on what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to spend 5 hours editing this shit. I want to say it once. I want to do one take, and I want to post it.
Right.
So I have to be very careful with what I say, and I think that is a good place to put yourself in. If you've got something to say, make sure the mic is recording. And make sure you have real intentions to post it, and then see what comes out of your fucking mouth. You know, that's different than creating this paradise worldview in your head and just keeping it to yourself and daydreaming all day and just pretending that shit is not the way it is. It's way different when you put it on paper or in audio or whatever. So anyway, be careful, be safe, love you, bye.
This concludes the broadcast. Please have a good day and do not be a piece of shit.